Berlin, 1923. A bitter winter wind cuts through the streets. A man walks frantically toward a bakery. He is pushing a heavy wooden wheelbarrow piled high with German marks. Millions of them. Just to buy 2 loaves of bread for his starving family, he leaves the wheelbarrow outside on the sidewalk for a split second to check the price inside. When he turns back around, he finds a scene that defies all modern logic. The money was dumped on the street. The piles of cash, millions of marks, representing months of labor, were left untouched, blowing in the gutter like trash. But the wheelbarrow? The wheelbarrow was stolen. In 1923, that thief understood something that most American economists today refuse to admit. He understood that the utility of a physical asset, even an old wooden wheelbarrow, was infinitely more valuable than a currency that had lost the trust of its people. Most Americans know the story of the Weimar Republic as a distant history lesson. We think of it as a unique disaster that happened to a defeated nation a century ago. We tell ourselves, that cannot happen here. We are the United States. We hold the world reserve currency. But we are wrong. The mathematics that destroyed the Weimar Republic are the exact same mathematics running the United States economy right now. We are not just walking down the same path. We are sprinting. From the explosion of government debt to the weaponization of the financial system, the parallels are undeniable. In this documentary, we are going to tear down the soft landing narrative. We will analyze the 5 stages of hyperinflation, prove exactly where we are on the timeline, and most importantly, I will show you how to stop your wealth from melting away like ice in a burning room. Let's start by destroying a myth. Most people assume that before a currency collapses, the economy looks terrible. They imagine breadlines, poverty, and despair from day one. But the truth is far more dangerous. In 1921 and 1922, Germany appeared to be experiencing an economic miracle. Factories were humming, unemployment was virtually zero, and the stock market? It was rocketing to the moon. If you owned stocks in Germany during this time, you felt like a genius. Your portfolio was up hundreds of %. On paper, everyone was becoming a millionaire. The legendary Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises had a name for this phenomenon. He called it the crack-up boom. It is the final, euphoric stage of a dying currency. Here is the mechanism. As the government prints more money, that new money flows into assets first. Stocks, real estate, and luxury goods rise in price. People see their account balances growing and think they are getting richer. Sound familiar? Look at the United States today. The S&P 500 is smashing records. Artificial intelligence stocks are creating overnight fortunes. Politicians point to the stock market highs and say, look, the economy is strong, the consumer is resilient. But this is a mirage. The stock market isn't going up because the economy is healthy. It is going up because the dollar is going down. When you measure the German stock market of the 1920s in gold instead of paper marks, the gains vanish. In real terms, the market was actually crashing. The same is true today. If you divide the S&P 500 by the M2 money supply, the total amount of dollars in existence the last 15 years of growth look very different. You aren't getting richer. The measuring stick is just getting shorter. The crack-up boom is a psychological trick designed to keep the population docile. It keeps you working for paper money, investing in paper assets, and believing in the system, right up until the moment the music stops. So, how does the boom turn into a bust? How do we get from record stock prices to total collapse? It is not magic. It is simple, cold-hearted arithmetic. It is the point where the debt becomes a death spiral. Germany emerged from World War I with massive debts owed in gold. They didn't have the gold, so they printed paper marks to buy it. This devalued the mark, which meant they had to print even more marks to buy the same amount of gold. This is called a doom loop. The United States has officially entered its own doom loop. But ours is driven by something even more terrifying: interest payments. Pay close attention to this data point. It is the single most important number in the global economy right now. For the first time in history, the United States government is spending more on interest payments than it spends on the entire national defense. We are spending more to service the ghosts of past spending than we are to protect our future. Here is the math that terrifies the Federal Reserve. The government collects about $4 to $5 trillion in taxes. But mandatory spending, Social Security, Medicare, and interest consumes almost all of that. So, how do they pay the bills? How do they pay the military? How do they fix the roads? They borrow more. They issue new debt just to pay the interest on the old debt. In the corporate world, if a company borrows money to pay interest, it is called a Ponzi scheme. It is illegal. It is fraud. When the government does it, it is called quantitative easing or liquidity injection, but the result is the same. We have crossed the mathematical event horizon. Even if the government taxed every billionaire at 100%, it wouldn't solve the problem. The debt is compounding exponentially. In 1923, the German central bankers faced a binary choice. Option A, stop printing, default on the debt, and cause an immediate, painful depression. Option B, keep printing, pretend everything is fine, and destroy the currency later. Politicians always choose option B, because option B buys them time. Option B keeps the voters happy for one more election cycle, but eventually you run out of road, and that is when the psychology shifts. We tend to think of money as something physical, something real, but money is not real. Money is confidence. It is a shared hallucination. We all agree that this piece of green paper is worth something, so it is. Hyperinflation is not just a monetary phenomenon. It is a psychological phenomenon. It happens when that shared hallucination breaks. Economists track this using a metric called velocity. It measures how fast money changes hands. Think of inflation like a ketchup bottle. You shake it, and nothing comes out. You shake it again, print another $1 trillion, and nothing happens. You think you are safe. And then, suddenly, the lid flies off. The ketchup goes everywhere. It is a non-linear event. In the United States, we are seeing the early signs of this psychological break. Look at the phenomenon of doom spending. Why is credit card debt at an all-time high? Why are savings rates plummeting? Why are Gen Z and millennials buying luxury watches and expensive vacations instead of saving for a house? Because deep down, they know the game is rigged. They know that their money will be worth less next year than it is today. So, the rational choice, the smart choice, is to get rid of the money. To trade the melting ice cube for anything that gives them joy now. In Weimar Germany, this reached a fever pitch. As soon as workers got paid, they ran, literally ran to the shops. They bought anything, pans, musical instruments, coal, not because they needed it, but because they needed to get out of the currency. When an entire population decides to reject their own money, no amount of interest rate hikes can stop the collapse. The dam bursts. But for the dam to fully burst, for the United States to truly become Weimar, we need a trigger. A spark that ignites the gasoline we have been pouring on the economy for 20 years. And that spark is not coming from Wall Street. It is coming from the other side of the world. To see how the dollar dies, we must look at how the mark died. In January 1923, the Weimar Republic faced its death blow. It wasn't a bank failure. It was a geopolitical event. France, angry that Germany was late on reparations, invaded the Ruhr Valley, Germany's industrial heartland. The German government ordered a passive resistance. Workers went on strike, but the government still had to pay them to survive. So, they printed money, millions of marks, paid to people who were producing nothing. Too much money chasing zero goods. That was the trigger. The currency collapsed immediately. Does the United States have a Ruhr moment? Yes. But ours isn't an invasion of land. It is an invasion of our status. For 50 years, the U.S. dollar was backed by one thing: oil. The petrodollar agreement meant that if any country wanted energy, they needed American dollars. This created a permanent, artificial demand for our currency. It allowed us to print money without consequences because we could export our inflation to the rest of the world. But that era is over. When the United States weaponized the dollar in 2022 by freezing Russian reserves, we told the world that the dollar is no longer neutral. We told Saudi Arabia, China, and India that their savings could be confiscated at the push of a button. The reaction was instant. The world began to de-dollarize. Saudi Arabia has ended the exclusive petrodollar deal. The BRICS nations are building an alternative payment system. Think about the consequences. There are trillions of U.S. dollars floating overseas, held by foreign central banks. If they no longer need those dollars to buy oil, they will send them back. They will dump them. When those trillions come flooding back home, they will ignite a domestic hyperinflationary firestorm that will make the 1970s look like a picnic. This is our Ruhr moment. The loss of our financial empire. I am not telling you this to scare you. Panic is useless. I am telling you this to prepare you. History shows us that in every hyperinflation, from Weimar Germany to Zimbabwe, from Venezuela to Argentina, there is a minority group of people who do not just survive. They become incredibly wealthy. This is known as the Great Wealth Transfer. Wealth is never destroyed, it is merely transferred. From the ignorant to the prepared. From those who hold paper to those who hold truth. Let's look at the playbook of Hugo Stinnes, the man who became the richest industrialist in Germany while the country collapsed. While everyone else was hoarding cash, Stinnes was doing the opposite. He borrowed as many marks as he could. Why? Because he understood the power of negative real interest rates. Imagine you borrow $1 million today at a fixed interest rate to buy a cash-flowing farm or apartment complex. Next year, inflation hits 50%. The value of your property doubles. The rent you collect doubles. But your debt? Your debt stays fixed at the old number. In real terms, the inflation is paying off your debt for you. You are using the central bank's destruction of the currency to build your own empire. This is the strategy of debt as a weapon. But be warned, you must have the cash flow to survive until the inflation kicks in. For those who cannot take on debt, the strategy shifts to the hard asset triad. Number 1, gold. Gold is the enemy of the central bank. It is the only money that has survived for 5,000 years. In Weimar, an ounce of gold bought an entire city block in Berlin. Central banks are buying it at record pace right now. Do not bet against the house. Number 2, Bitcoin. We have to talk about the new variable. Bitcoin is the first asset in human history with a supply that is absolutely mathematically fixed. You cannot print more Bitcoin. In a world where the dollar supply is doubling every few years, holding an asset with a fixed supply is the only logical defense. It is the digital lifeboat. While gold preserves wealth, Bitcoin offers the asymmetric upside to create generational wealth in the chaos. Number 3, productive assets. Farmland, energy, essential businesses. Things people need to survive. In a collapse, financial engineers lose their jobs. People who produce food and energy become the new kings. The United States is currently living through the greatest economic experiment in human history. We are testing how much paper money we can print before gravity takes over. The math says the limit has been reached. The history books say the outcome is inevitable. The cash is trash era is not coming. It is already here. The hidden tax is eroding your life's work every single second that you leave your money sitting in a bank account. You cannot stop the Federal Reserve. You cannot stop the debt clock. But you can stop being a victim. Do not be the person standing outside the bakery with a wheelbarrow of worthless paper. Be the person who saw the storm coming. If this documentary opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button. We are going to guide you through this chaos together. And I have one final question for you to answer in the comments. Look at your portfolio today. Are you holding trash or are you holding treasure? Let me know below. I'm the Strategic Director of Finance Prism. Class dismissed.